What if I told you that while Toto Wolff is playing chess with Max Verstappen's future, Fred Vasseur has just admitted Ferrari's 2025 car is fundamentally broken? What if George Russell's Mercedes contract depends entirely on Red Bull's engine performance, while Lewis Hamilton is trapped in a Ferrari that actively fights him at every corner? And what if both championship dreams could collapse because of two completely different but equally devastating problems? Right now, Formula One's two most iconic teams are facing crises that could reshape the entire grid. At Mercedes, it's a calculated gamble with driver contracts. At Ferrari, it's a technical nightmare that has left Hamilton and Leclerc stunned. These aren't separate stories. They're connected in ways that will define the sport's future. Let's start with the Mercedes situation, because understanding Toto Wolff's strategy explains why Ferrari's crisis matters so much more. According to sources close to the team, Wolff finds himself in the most delicate balancing act of his career, deliberately avoiding long-term contracts with his current drivers for one simple reason: Max Verstappen could still be available beyond 2026. The evidence is mounting everywhere. Russell himself acknowledged that his team principal was in talks with the four-time world champion, stating there's nothing he can do about it other than perform well. Despite Verstappen committing to Red Bull for 2026, those talks haven't ended. They've intensified after that yacht meeting between Verstappen and Wolff in Sardinia. Here's what most people miss. High-performing athletes like Verstappen have exit clauses tied to team performance. If Red Bull fails to deliver in 2026 due to their anticipated engine deficit with Audi, Max could activate these clauses and leave Red Bull. Wolff's own words reveal the strategy. Russell will be renewed soon. I always said I was happy with my team with Russell and Antonelli. But suddenly Max's future became uncertain, and so we talked to him too. 90% would have stayed with us, but I also needed to talk with Verstappen. But while Mercedes plays the long game, Ferrari's immediate crisis is far more shocking. Fred Vasseur's latest bombshell has sent shockwaves through Maranello and the entire F1 paddock. For the first time, he's openly admitted just how deep the SF25's problems really run. And it's not about minor tweaks or bad weekends. It's a fundamental flaw in Ferrari's entire design philosophy. The problem centers on one of the most technically sensitive areas in modern F1, ride height control and plank wear. From the very first day of testing in Bahrain, Ferrari's engineers realized something was catastrophically wrong. The SF25 was designed to maximize performance by running extremely close to the ground, generating downforce through ground effect. But here's Vasseur's devastating admission. Every time they lower the car enough to unlock peak performance, the wooden plank wears out far too quickly, putting them at constant risk of disqualification under FIA regulations. This exploded into public view at the Chinese Grand Prix when both Hamilton and Leclerc were disqualified for excessive plank wear after Ferrari's strongest weekend of the season. Since then, Ferrari has been forced to abandon the very setup philosophy the SF25 was built around. To avoid disqualification, they're running the car several millimeters higher off the ground. In Formula One, those tiny changes are catastrophic. The downforce levels collapse, the car loses balance, and everything starts working against itself. The human cost of this technical failure is devastating both drivers, but in completely different ways. For Charles Leclerc, who has grown used to Ferrari's quirks, the situation means flashes of brilliance followed by crushing disappointment. Vasseur admitted that, terrified of another plank-related disaster, Ferrari raised Leclerc's tire pressures in Hungary to protect the floor, a move that destroyed mechanical grip. The result? Leclerc led comfortably for 2/3 of the race, only to lose performance dramatically as the car began sliding on overheated tires. For Lewis Hamilton, the situation is even more complicated. Vasseur revealed that the SF25's suspension and aerodynamic characteristics make it one of the most difficult cars on the grid to adapt to, particularly for Hamilton's aggressive, late-braking style. Originally designed around Carlos Sainz's smoother inputs, the car refuses to rotate the way Hamilton needs it to. Vasseur acknowledged these mismatches have forced Hamilton to completely rethink his approach, but without resolving the fundamental plank and ride height issues first, no amount of adaptation seems enough. The SF25 doesn't just lack confidence, it actively fights Hamilton at every stage of the lap. Even worse, Ferrari's engineering department has been paralyzed by this single problem. Almost all development resources are being poured into solving the plank wear crisis, meaning other critical areas that Hamilton has specifically requested improvements on have been put on hold. But here's where these two stories converge in the most unexpected way. Mercedes' strategy of waiting for Verstappen suddenly makes perfect sense when you understand Ferrari's technical disaster. Wolff isn't just playing games. He's watching one of his biggest rivals implode while his former driver suffers in a broken car. Martin Brundle's analysis reveals the stakes for Mercedes. The Sky F1 pundit believes Russell is currently the most wanted available asset on the grid, but Russell wants certainty. As Brundle explained, what he won't want to do is find himself in this position again next year if Max Verstappen finds himself on the market. Meanwhile, Andrea Kimi Antonelli's position isn't safe either. Despite being Mercedes Academy graduate, he doesn't have a contract beyond 2026 and is currently 108 points behind his teammate. If Verstappen becomes available, Antonelli could be demoted to a customer team. But as sources suggest, teams like Ferrari, McLaren, and Red Bull would approach him immediately. The irony is stunning. While Mercedes deliberately keeps options open for a potential Verstappen signing, Ferrari's technical crisis could actually accelerate that timeline. If the SF25's problems aren't solved and Hamilton's frustrations continue mounting, it could trigger a domino effect across the entire driver market. The most intriguing possibility mentioned in source material is Russell potentially joining Red Bull alongside Verstappen. While Verstappen committed to Red Bull for 2026, Russell hasn't made the same commitment to Mercedes yet. Knowing he's the most valuable unsigned driver for 2026, could Russell use this leverage? The 2026 regulation reset would level the playing field significantly. As sources suggest, Russell wouldn't struggle like previous Red Bull second drivers. He wouldn't be missing Q3 or scoring just 7 points in 12 races. This would give him a unique opportunity to beat Verstappen in equal machinery while putting Mercedes in an incredibly delicate position. Meanwhile, Ferrari's internal battles continue. Vasseur admitted there are now two competing visions. One faction believes the SF25's ground effect philosophy is fundamentally flawed and must be abandoned for 2026, while another insists the concept can still succeed with heavy suspension development investment. The resolution of both crises could reshape F1's entire landscape. These aren't separate stories. They're interconnected crises that will define Formula One's future. Mercedes is gambling that they can wait for Verstappen while keeping Russell and Antonelli satisfied. Ferrari is trapped in a technical dead end that's holding Hamilton and Leclerc hostage while their rivals pull further ahead. The psychological toll is becoming visible. Hamilton's public frustrations with the SF25, Leclerc's radio outbursts, Russell's contract uncertainties, and Antonelli's championship deficit, all symptoms of teams caught between impossible choices. If Red Bull's 2026 engine struggles materialize and Verstappen's exit clauses activate, Mercedes' patience could pay off spectacularly. But if Ferrari can't solve their fundamental design flaws, Hamilton's move to Maranello could become one of the most regrettable decisions in F1 history. The next few months will determine whether Mercedes' calculated risk becomes genius strategy or catastrophic miscalculation, and whether Ferrari can save their season before losing the confidence of two of the sport's greatest drivers forever. What do you think? Is Mercedes playing this perfectly? Or are both teams headed for disaster?